I don't want you as a business owner to control who comes into your business or who uses your platform. It's about saying that if you promise a product that says it's going to be open, that it's going to be enforced in a certain way, and you publish those policies, you just have to stick by them.
Okay, well, then you're fucked. Both of you are so fucked. This lawsuit is not going to fucking... I mean, prove me wrong. I would be astounded if this won in court. If that's really... I thought you had more legs to stand on when it came to this big lawsuit you keep making all this noise about. That's fucking... This is a pittance. Okay, well, the people have spoken. They chose the Rubin Report. This is Dave Rubin, Steven Crowder, talking about suing Facebook, big tech canceling conservative businesses. Here we go.
I'm Dave Rubin, and joining me today is a comedian, a podcaster, and host of Louder with Crowder on Blaze.
Well, I mean, if he knows comedians, it's Dave Rubin. Have you watched the stand-up comedy? It's groundbreaking. It's groundbreaking. Yeah. A lot of it is identity politics, strangely enough. I mean, I think every single joke is about gay people and asking whether his audience is gay or stuff like that. But he moved past the id poll to realize that id poll is a tool of the devil. So he's evolved.
Steven Crowder, welcome back to the Rubin Report for the first time since April of 2016.
April 2016. Well, I've had you on my show way more times than that. So at some point we have to have an equitable...
I've been on your show dozens of times, but somehow, literally, I mean, this is almost 5 years, man.
Well, I think you always wanted me to do it. You always wanted to have people physically in studio, and now with the COVID, you'll take what you can get. And so thanks for having me, Dave.
Yeah, it is good to have you. You are doing a first here on the Rubin Report. I have never had a guest on the show before who requested to come on the show with their lawyer. And if I'm not mistaken, that is your Asian lawyer sitting right next to you, Bill Richardson. Why did you bring your lawyer?
No,
He can't even do the routine. You're fucking up the id poll routine. It's the half Asian lawyer. That's why it's funny, you know? Oh God, Dave Rubin, you can't even do bigotry comedy. The bar is so low. Get this man a cue card. Come on.
Hold on a second. He's half Asian, and Bill Richardson was the governor of New Mexico. This is half Asian Bill Richmond, but close enough.
Bill Richmond. Wait, did I say Bill Richardson?
Yeah, and actually, there is a little bit of a resemblance.
So there is a little bit of a resemblance. For sure.
The shape of the head.
I mean, sometimes my wife even mistakes me and calls me Bill Richardson.
Why is it funny that he's half Asian? Oh, you didn't know. Steven Crowder likes to identify every single one of the people who works for him in his little inner circle by whatever percentage of non-white races they are, because he thinks it's mocking the fact that the left does identity politics so much that this is in fact the way they think and see the world. So that's it. That's the whole thing.
No, I just had him on. Well, he's on the show quite a bit, and so it's different from having a lawyer on just saying don't say that, can't say that, since he often acts like a co-host, and also to make sure that I don't screw up. Since what we're talking about is, we've talked about this. A lot of conservatives out there sort of there's a little bit of sometimes crying wolf where a post was removed, and so I'm gonna go to war with Facebook. But since there's an actual suit filed that could prove to be a landmark situation, he makes sure that I don't just fly by the seat of my pants.
Okay, well, half Asian Bill Richmond, it's good to have you here. And you know what, Crowder, I was going to do some personal stuff with...
Oh, did I do the joke right? Yeah, half Asian? All right, okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, but let's shove it. Let's just dive right into this thing. Because the big tech censorship thing, I mean, this is the issue of the day. It's like, it's not a issue, it is the issue, because it's our only way to communicate, at least right now. And you're not happy with YouTube, you're not thrilled with Twitter, but you're really not happy with Facebook, huh?
Well, you know what's funny is actually probably obviously the people with who I would have the most grievances would be YouTube, right? Sorry guys about the Vox apocalypse. I didn't intend for that.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's guilty. But Facebook has been going on for a long time. And here's the thing. I just want to do my show. I just want to do my work. Bill knows this. He's been on retainer for a long time. We have so many little legal battles that we have to fight on an ongoing basis that people never hear about. The issue becomes when you can no longer actually do your work or run your business. And with Facebook, this has been going on for a long time. A lot of back and forth. And then the biggest independent election stream ever, in this election that we were doing, 15 million people watching, that's not including whatever numbers on Facebook that vanished, was removed. And by the way, it's still up on YouTube. There isn't even a soft copyright claim, and Facebook never gave us any reason. And then after that, started throttling the page, saying that this page can only be viewed by your fans, and never gave us any reason. And this is a long time coming because
he's talking about the election fraud. He's also talking about the conspiracy theories. He's one of the people who's pushing conspiracy theories on everybody. And it turns out that those conspiracy theories were getting pretty heavily censored by big tech, probably as a response to the insurrection that they ended up inspiring.
Screen grabs from behind the scenes and included Ted Cruz for president, Chris Kyle Foundation, Breitbart, and yours truly. And I thought, I wonder if this relates to something going on behind the scenes with the payment issue. Well, here's the thing. I sent Bill my chats, your customer service chats with Facebook, Not only were they saying that my account could be removed and my payment actually, so I could be in delinquency, they potentially send this to creditors. But what had happened was I sent a physical check finally, payable to Facebook in, wherever it is Palo Alto? One of those places. They deposited it. I had the receipt of them depositing the check, and they were going to remove my page that week and potentially send this to creditors, and still claiming that I hadn't made the payment. The only way to remedy the situation, and it just happened to coincide, Gizmodo or Engadget? Gizmodo was to have my lawyer reach out to them. There was no other way. I didn't want to do it. I sent a check by snail mail, which they deposited, and they still were going to try and pipe me. So that's how we met.
So before we get too into the weeds on all of the there's a lot of interesting stuff here. And, I've been saying, and we've talked about it many times, that you have to fight the big tech front in many ways. You have to fight it with, by building tech. You have to fight it by legal means. Whatever way you can fight it, I think you have to fight it. But Bill, when you get the call...
I totally forgot. He did build tech. He made a website. Have I been approved for it? I'm on his... Rubin, what's going on? You're not really allowing me into the marketplace here. Debate Sam Cedar, you coward. .locals.com is still being approved. Stay tuned for more information coming soon. We'll see.
Call from Crowder, and he's like, all right, let's do this. Let's do this with Facebook, with any of these other companies. I think a lot of lawyers would be like, no, I just don't want to deal with the headache. I don't want to deal with the massive amounts of lawyers that they have, the millions and millions, and it's not even millions and millions. It's just the endless amount of money that they have to fight me.
You're undershooting that a little bit. I mean, Zuckerberg hasn't seen $1 million in probably a decade and a half. You're talking about many, many billions.
So yeah, exactly. So what is it about you that makes you want to work with a guy like this and get into the fight?
You're crazy?
Yeah, it's a combination of one being crazy, but also being convicted of the values that go into when businesses need to treat people right. So when Steve and I first met, we had never had a conversation before. We'd never talked about anything on any point whatsoever. A mutual connection brought us together. They had tried to reach out to other lawyers about trying to get this to happen back in 2016 when this originally occurred.
And I'm pretty sure you thought it was full of shit.
I definitely thought it was spam or craziness, or you get a lot of calls as a lawyer about certain cases, and you're just not sure about whether they're any good. But when you started to put together these facts, it was at first, hey, I wonder what's going on with this check. And then when the Gizmodo article hit, you really realize that this is something much larger than just a accounting snafu or a company deciding that they don't particularly like a certain creator. It becomes much more nefarious than that, to the point of, even with regards to that Gizmodo article, there were Senate investigations and other things. And this is back in 2016, before everything that we're hearing in the last couple of years, and especially the last couple of months regarding Section 230 and really the new rally and warpath that Facebook has been on against creators.
Bill, what would you say to the people that would say, hey, they're private companies, they can do whatever they want, they can work with whoever they want, if they want to cut you off, if they want to shut you down, they have every right to do it?
I say, you're right, and they're still wrong, because we're pro-business but anti-fraud. America has been built on having companies and people individually. You can contract with someone, and you can say, hey, we're going to do certain things, or I'm going to operate cleanly. You have statutes in almost every state that protect against anti-competitive behavior and unfair and deceptive trade practices. And what you have from Facebook is exactly that, because what they're trying to do, and what they have been doing, is saying, hey, go create for us. Create content. We don't know how to create content, but we need you to create that content. Bring your people, bring your followers, and with them comes the most valuable thing. It's not really the eyeballs and ears. Those are a byproduct. It's the data. It's the data points that they can use to sell the advertising. Everyone knows that. When you sign on for the free product, you're the product. But in this part, that's where the fraud is, because they're saying that we have a platform where we uniformly and non-discriminatorily and without political bias enforce our policies. They even said that back in 2016 in defense to the Senate letter. They said, no.
Isn't that how all private corporations work, though? I mean, wouldn't it definitely come down to board CEOs in terms of final decision making? And in terms of that TOS, does the TOS allow them to make the final say in this? Or do they have unilateral power to execute that power as they see fit? Because that would be a problem too. They're kind of he's talking about monopolies, and he's kind of getting around the fact that the problem here is that monopolies are kind of an inevitability under the current system, right? What is it? 2 corporations right now control the mass production of beer that is made in the United States. 8 to 11 companies control the majority of food products that are manufactured in the United States. 5 companies control the majority of media that is consumed in the United States. This isn't like a bunch of coincidences. This is like how the system works by design. Once they become successful enough, once they get to a certain size, then eventually they're going to be inhaled by the other corporations that already have monopolies in these fields in order to prevent competitiveness. They won't destroy the brand or the company, they'll just absorb it. So you still think you have thousands of brands in the supermarket, and at the end of the day, it's only about 8 companies that control all those. Banks, I think it's 4, right? It's 4 major banks doing the exact same thing. Airlines is even smaller. Isn't airlines 2 in America, I want to say? But anyways, this is a huge problem. This is something that happens under capitalism, especially under the corporate capitalism, the late stage capitalism, if you will, where we have these monstrous geopolitical corporations that grow to these certain sizes. And then once they basically dominate a certain field, they will begin to devour any smaller company that tries to become competitive with them. It's the reason that Facebook owns Instagram, for example. They saw Instagram as an inevitable threat, and they eventually decided, why don't we just buy them out? This continues to happen, and it happened in a field that is related to human social interaction. So this is why this has suddenly become this big boiling point, especially for conservatives, because this is a problem being pointed out by the left, not really liberals, but the left has been pointing this out for a while now, and the conservatives have finally met this headway, where it's like, well, yeah, everyone has to use these YouTubes, Googles, Facebooks. We have to use them. They're basically necessary in society now to communicate with each other. Our social interactions have been monetized. Everything that can be monetized eventually will be. So as a result of that, there's a huge amount of control put into a private company. And now he's saying we're totally fine with that. We're fine. We just want them to follow their own rules. And they promise to follow their own rules, but they haven't been. They've been bad. They haven't been following the rules. Their TOS says that they will not take political stances, all right? And they have been taking political stances, which in and of itself is kind of weird too. You have to remember that they're really upset because the cyberbullying and harassment policies have started to include and been more inclusive towards members of the trans community, for example. So someone like Steven Crowder, whose entire bigotry bread and butter is vilifying minorities, vilifying people who are in the trans community. And because he's so far beyond the pale of the Overton window, that will fall under the purview of, well, yeah, you're being a bigot, so this is our TOS, right? I don't think YouTube or any of these companies enforces TOS unilaterally. I think it's very clear how they do that. I think it's very clear how someone like Steven Crowder has got away with what he's gotten away with for so long because he's the biggest channel. He's the biggest one. Like, it's not just at this point a matter of like simple economics, as in he's making them a ton of money, which he is, but that's not it either. It's that if you take down the largest conservative independent channel on a platform, that in and of itself would become a monstrously controversial move. You know, the PR, the amount of backlash they would face. Like, they are in this very odd, precarious moment right now where Steven Crowder violates their TOS consistently. He's been doing it recently with the whole Trump, basically that policy that they enacted, the one that our video got flagged for on lies and conspiracy theories. That was us featuring clips of Steven Crowder. And because we put clips of Steven Crowder, that alone was enough to flag it for conspiracy theories related to the election of the United States. They said that we didn't do a good enough job of rebutting the lies that were in the video. The lies that, again, were made by Steven Crowder, whose channel still lives.
No. We never engage in political viewpoint discrimination, despite what this whistleblower employee has said, despite what our written handbook says about these particular names. And they sit in front of Congress as recently as last year saying, no, we do not engage in that. But when you look at the actual pattern and practice of who's getting shut down, who's getting throttled, despite the popularity of that content, despite the fact that we have a country who's craving certain values and viewpoints, even if they disagree, to at least hear them and disagree with them, you know that that's what's happening. This isn't about saying, oh, I don't want to.
I'll cut this down really easy for everyone to understand. Super simple. You know the debate that was happening in America, the one that I'm sure Steven Crowder was on the other side? Can you force a private company to make a cake for, let's just say, a gay couple? Can you do that? Can you force a private corporation to make a cake for a gay couple? Because that's the same thing that's happening right here. Can we force a private corporation, such as YouTube, because at the end of the day, they're a private company, can we force them to do what we want in terms of how they choose and dictate their freedom of speech? Because they keep using that term, freedom of speech, but it's not. It's how they dictate speech in their networks, how they control their own sales. It's the exact same thing.
I don't want you as a business owner to control who comes into your business or who uses your platform. It's about saying that if you promise a product that says it's going to be open, that it's going to be enforced in a certain way, and you publish those policies, you just have to stick by them.
Okay, well, then you're fucked. Both of you are so fucked. This lawsuit is not going to fucking, I mean, prove me wrong. I would be astounded if this won in court. If that's really, I thought you had more legs to stand on when it came to this big lawsuit you keep making all this noise about. That's fucking, this is a pittance. You're going to get past their TOS. You're going to get past the agreement that every user has signed. Like, this is the big battle. Like, hey, we don't want to tell a private company what they should or should not do. It has nothing to do with that. And we're going to stand by that. In fact, we'll fight for that, which is okay, fine. Secede the ground to them on that. At the same time, you think that you're going to find some way to prove that they have been targeting selectively conservatives instead of just enacting the policies that they choose to do when they want?
Yeah, and I think something too is
Crowder, what would? Sorry, go ahead.
I think something too is Bill's always known that I've approached this as a business owner. When people see me complain about something publicly, or we do a deplatform this campaign or something, that's because the fight has come to my doorstep. I want to be able to run my program and run my business. And we even said, look, if you have different rules from what we've been told, tell us what they are. Now, that's one thing that happened, at least at that time of the Vox apocalypse, where they said, okay, these videos need to be removed. You need to change your shirt in your merch store, which was different. They added guidelines. Again, sorry, because I hadn't violated any, but then I said, okay, your sandbox, your rules, understood. With Facebook, they still haven't given any. There's no answer, no reply, no reason for removing the biggest election stream that's ever taken place on an online platform. By the way, more people were watching, and I don't say this to brag. I mean, we've talked about this for a long time. A lot of people go out there and try and tout their numbers. I want the content to speak for itself. More people were watching us than Brian Williams and CNN combined. And Facebook gave no reason to this day, zero justification for it. At a certain point, yeah.
That is a lie. He didn't have as many concurrent live viewers. He had millions of views after the fact. They still spread that lie. It's not as if he had like over a million, 1.5 or 1.6 million. It would have been like, in terms of a network recording or broadcasting the presidential address or the election itself, that would have been millions and millions of people. Have
to know what the rules are. Didn't they just, was it Friday? Now they just totally demonetized the page, which is fine. We said, what was the reason listed?
None
whatsoever. I've invested over the years since 2009 to that. We're talking about millions of dollars into growing a business. I mean, if you build a building, for whatever, a coffee shop, a pizza parlor, and then someone comes in and says, by the way, we're taking back the foundation. Well, no, I paid for that, and we agreed to that. And if you change the rules, well, first off, there's some legality there, and then tell me what the new rules are. Do I need to pay for updates to the foundation? What, do you have to corner the building? They haven't given us any answers. So this is the only option available to me, not the first.
What would you guys say to all of the Media Matters people and the Vox people and the Daily Beast people who no doubt will be watching this, and they will say, but wait a minute, Crowder and your half-Asian lawyer, when we look at the top 10, drivers of traffic to Facebook pages, usually 4 out of 10 have something to do with Ben Shapiro, 3 of them are The Blaze, and then there's one lefty thing. How could that then be the censorship of conservative voices?
That's in spite of Facebook's policy. Now, we don't know because we don't have access to the information algorithms, which are kept more secret than the Coke formula, or what was it, the 52 herbs and spices to the Colonel's chicken. But I will say this, people used to use this argument a lot about Michael Phelps. They would say, well, he eats 3 Big Macs every day, and he used to eat a bunch of McDonald's and this kind of stuff.
But then is your argument that every private corporation has to be completely transparent? Is that it? Because that's what you're suggesting there. There's not like a law that says that private companies don't have to follow their own internal policies on speech perfectly. They have to fall under whatever federal regulations are on that. But there's no hey, by the way, at Burger King, you said you had a policy against saying these certain words, and now you're uttering them in the middle of the day. That's wrong. We have to take down the entire company because of it. That lawsuit will go nowhere.
Whether it's YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. And Stephen is one of those. When you looked back at the 2016 Gizmodo article, that example there was based on only having 4 names of all the conservative voices out there at the time. You had Rush, you had Daily Wire, you had Shapiro, you had all these other
of online content, doing it live at a set time. A good portion of our traffic comes from people just bookmarking the page so that we aren't in Matt Drudge before he went,
And guys like you and I,
So, when you're talking to...
It's funny, this whole thing, I didn't know this is what they were going to be proposing, because he's been talking about this lawsuit for a while. I had assumed they had something, I don't know, with any substance. This whole thing is such an utter joke. And I am for people who consider themselves to be part of YouTube to have more rights. It's one of the reasons I joined the FairTube Union. It's one of the reasons that I am going to support people who fight for smaller creators to have more rights in the workplace. But this ain't it. You're coming at this from a strange business corporate perspective where you're I respect businesses, I respect corporations, and I respect their ability to have unilateral monopolies. That's all totally fine with me. What I just don't want is you guys not to be as transparent as I would like in terms of how you're enforcing your TOS. So if we could just get you to follow the rules that you yourself set out perfectly, then we're going to be totally fine. Then everything goes back to normal, right? Then you can't kick us out.
Your shareholders, and you're telling about what your company is and how you do it. We're asking for for these types of disclosures. And really, when it comes down to the relief, the first thing is stop doing what you're doing. Stop saying that your policies are A and then actually enforcing B. And if they say, well, we're not doing that, we point all the way back to 2016 of the pattern. And here's one of the things that's really interesting. It's not something that is different from what they've done in other ways. They've done it with app creators where they've said, come and join us.
Yeah, this is going to be a joke laughed out of court. I mean, the only good news here is this is probably going to cost Steven Crowder tens of thousands of dollars, and they'll achieve nothing.
Both sets of rules right now, and you have to pick one, right? Either you are liable for the kind of content on your platform, in which case you can take these actions which they take, which act beyond the law.
I don't know. Sounds a little bit like regulation to me. Sounds like they're trying to tread upon. I don't want to be tread upon. I've said it before, Don't tread on me, Crowder. Sounds like they're trying to tread. If you want us to advertise your channel or work, please go to weareserfs.com and email us a 20 to 30 second ad, and we'll take it on to the end of one of our videos to help promote your leftist channel or progressive something. Whatever you do.
To our gods, on Raph, Xander Corvus, Schlatsky, we look to the stars for your divine guidance. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are merely puppets for your amusement. To our lords, Trevor R., Alexander Thaler, Hans Josephine, Ryan Lubin, Timothy K. Meeblebeeps Jr., Bisexual Black Gamer, and Tofox, we shall carry your banner into the fog of war. To our Knights of the Round Table, Josh Mickelson, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, Todd Lajeunesse, Political Puppy, Jimmy Bignuts, Andreas Chiringuito, Yoppie, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Thomas Barrington, J. Fraser Cartwright, Goofalankius, Melissa Murphy, Nicholas Marks, Radical Maniac, The Great Pudini, Kale Kotka, Anthropophagic, Serene 42, Chronic de Hemphog, Phone Jenny, Incosin, Constance Joyce Lacheris, and Ramon Acosta, we drink with you and we salute you.